watching SLC TV, Salt Lake City's government access channel. Today I'm at the University of Utah, the state's flagship institution for higher education. Founded in 1850, the university serves over 31,000 students from around the United States and the world. Tying in with this week's episode of Capital City News, we hear from Angela Doan, Salt Lake City Mayor Jackie Biskupski's Senior Advisor for Education. And our History Minute this week is about Salt Lake's first Judo Championship. Let's get started with our legislative update and look back.
Our goal is to explain the building itself, to actually show the architecture, to show how we're working very hard to tie into the community, to make it safe. And then we're mostly addressing their questions and concerns that are really the same questions. We know, how is the building going to interact with the community? What type of safety features have taken place so that the community members understand why this is different than the shelters that they see now, and how the community can be engaged with the process.
There's a 45-day public process during which we send notice to the community and we start our community engagement. We can't schedule a public hearing during that time, and that process will end in early February. After that, we'll be looking at taking it to a work session with the Planning Commission on February 14th to talk with the Planning Commission about the application and some of the concerns and what we've been hearing about with the application. Both the regular conditional use criteria and the new homeless resource qualifying provisions or zoning regulations are there to address the concerns of the community, to get that input and see what can we do to make this facility fit better and mitigate some of those potential concerns and impacts.
All of this information, all the documentations that we're showing now are on Salt Lake City's website. They are also on Shelter the Homeless website. So between those two entities, there's a lot of contact information, how to reach out, how to meet with the city, how to meet with Shelter the Homeless, how to reach out to the architect.
Access to a quality and world-class education is a top priority for Salt Lake City. Angela Doan, the mayor's senior advisor on education, is here to share her plans for educational success in the city.
So here in Salt Lake City, the Salt Lake City School District serves a minority-majority school district. So about 52% of their school district are minority students, and we have a large ELL population. And so it's trying to think about how do we support that kind of diversity within classrooms so that everyone has success in school. So Salt Lake City and the Salt Lake City School District are coterminous, so that means that they share the same boundaries, but we don't actually share the same governance. Salt Lake City School District is ran by the superintendent and the school board, and whereas the city has the mayor and the city council. So we're looking at ways that we could collaborate, partner, and expand the kind of things that are happening in our city already for education. The mayor's vision for the city is a city for everyone, and if you want everyone to be included in the city and be successful in the city, one of the first things is making sure that education is accessible to everyone. So what motivates me every day is thinking about opportunity gaps and educational equity in the city. I was a child of refugee parents, born on the West Side, and I think My academic and professional success is always celebrated as an outlier, but Salt Lake City and the Salt Lake City School District has what it takes to make this a norm. Everyone should have success and have the academic and professional success that I have and so many of my fellow colleagues and stuff have as well in our city. In my role and capacity, I play the role of convener and facilitator, helping with the greater institutions within our city. So we're looking at the school district, higher ed institutions, non-profit organizations, and any other entity that really wants to partner and create educational equity. Right? So my first goal is really thinking about how do I partner with everyone? How do I make sure that the voices are heard? And then the things I'm really focused on is the school to prison pipeline and early childhood education. The school to prison pipeline is a national trend where students are being pushed away from the school system into the prison system through the juvenile justice system or the criminal justice system. And that happens indirectly through suspensions and expulsions at schools or directly through citations and arrests through police officers. Suspensions and expulsions are really important because research shows that if you are suspended, you are 3 times more likely by 10th grade to drop out. And if you drop out, you're 3 times more likely to become incarcerated later in life. Utah is one of a dozen states that has a law on the books regarding school resource officers and contracts. Thanks to Representative Sandra Hollins, we have a state law that requires that contracts between school districts and local law enforcement talks about training, the rights of a school resource officer, the rights of an administrator. My role is to ensure that we are not just consistent with the law, but that we are consistent with the intent of the law. Early childhood education is the second thing that we'll focus on at the city because we know that if we support students earlier on in education, we provide less remedial supports later on in their educational settings. Utah is one of 9 states that does not provide for pre-K services at the state level, so it takes a lot of local effort to think about how do we support kids so that any child that wants pre-K services does not end up on a wait list or is denied services. So if you're interested in learning more about the school to prison pipeline or early childhood education or anything that the mayor is doing in regards to education, feel free to contact me. I'm more than happy to sit down and talk to you and discuss what's going on in our city and what our goals and priorities are.
And now it's time for a History Minute.
When the original Olympic delegation from Salt Lake City returned home from Rome in their unsuccessful bid to gain the 1972 Olympics, IOC officials told them that part of their decision was that Salt Lake City had no experience hosting international sporting events. To that end, the committee looked around for any international sporting event they could get their hands on and ended up nabbing the 5th World Judo Championships for Salt Lake City to host in 1967. The committee became a sponsor of the event and provided transportation, room, and board for more than 200 contestants and officials from 29 countries. The tournament took place at the Einar Nielsen Field House at the University of Utah. A torch run was organized from Ensign Peak to the event itself. Main Street was renamed the Avenue of Nations and an official parade was held. There was no denying the fact that this was being used as a proving grounds for the Olympics. While the event was successful for those reasons, the Utahns of 1967 weren't terribly interested in judo and the tournament didn't draw large crowds. But it put Salt Lake on the map as a city that could handle international sporting events.
Well, there you have it. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Capital City News. Salt Lake City congratulates the first female president of the University of Utah, Dr. Ruth Watkins. I'm Poonam Kumar, and I'm signing off from the U.